Despite the global challenges affecting the world's economy, from inflation to the uncertainty in the world stock market, now, there are still a few stocks that are doing perfectly well. Now, they are printing millions of dollars in for their investors every single time. I know you may not know them, but today on Clockwise, we are going to discuss 7 stocks that are printing money for investors. And if it is still sure for you to buy in now, or you should wait. And today's episode will be so superb and so wonderful. My name is Providence, and as we do it every day or every time on this channel, I bring a very keen stock market analyst, someone that sleeps on the chart and discuss the fundamentals often. Now, with a resounding virtual round of applause, we welcome Mr. Kanye. Welcome to Clockwise again.
Thank you very much for having me once again.
You know, no matter how the economy is, the world's economy, there are people that are still making money from it.
Yes.
In every situation, even in a recession, people are still making serious money from a recession.
Yes.
So today we want to highlight those stocks. Our viewers may know them, they may not know them, but we want to highlight those stocks. I want to see if it's also a better opportunity to actually buy in now, or we should wait for another opportunity to buy in. But these stocks, they will make money throughout the whole of 2026 and beyond. So that's the conversation. Okay. So let's dive straight into it.
Okay, so you've seen what has happened in Iran. Energy prices are going high.
Yeah.
So the stocks I will be looking at, the first one will be Seplat Energy.
Okay.
Yes, and the reason is this, because you've seen currently Brent is still hovering around 114. There's no progress with regarding to opening the Strait of Hormuz, and what that means is that you can still see oil prices keeping high. I said it before, and I'm going to say it again. Today is the last day of March, and so what that means is that if that case is not settled, if the Strait of Hormuz is not opened by today, we are going to see a lot more dislocation.
I mean, those that have oil stocks will still be
meaning that the people that are companies that are involved in production of oil, exploration and production are going to make so much money. Let me give you an example to think about. The supply that we're talking about is up already 56%.
Wow.
Year to date. Year to date, wow. I mean from January 1st to now, 56%. There's another name too that has even done more, which is Aradel. Aradel has done more. Aradel has done over 80% year to date. I'm not talking about 2 years. Year to date. Man. Meaning that if you had invested, let's say 1 million naira into Aradel 1st of January of this year, by now, just 3 months after, you would have been up, you would have been sitting on 1.8 million. That's an insane figure. And so we expect that to continue to push.
There's an uncertainty on the
There's uncertainty on the Strait of Hormuz, and a lot of things will begin to show up. Like I told you, we have not seen the effect of this supply shock because we still had some vessels that were going that had left before the crisis started. Now, a lot of those vessels are trapped, and then you are going to see the real impact of losing 21 million barrels of crude, which is about 20% of the world's supply. Not just crude, LNG, 20 to 25% of LNG globally passes through that.
And the world cannot live without energy.
Of course, you can't live without energy. Even food supplies too will be affected because a chunk of the fertilizers that you need, especially the artificial fertilizers, come from that Strait of Hormuz. So you are expecting a serious dislocation in terms of energy. You are looking in terms of consumer products, especially like consumer staples, industrials, because that also affects petrol, premium motor spirits, as well as diesel.
Now, these are the two sides. We have the sites that investors are benefiting more. Now, would you advise somebody to actually buy into Seplat today or?
Yes, I'm telling you, I would say, it's been up.
Or should we wait for a correction?
So here is the deal. This price is actually track the price of oil, and if you look at in the Asian markets, if you look at the spot price and the options, we are talking about something hovering around $140, $150 a barrel. That's the figure. Yes, by market dynamics, we expect it to pull back. To pull back to actually close that gap. But the reality is that it is not compulsory, especially when the fundamentals are saying that it's going to move.
Yes,
investors are just trying to predict what is going to happen next. So you cannot really say
We can't have peace tomorrow.
You know, I looked at. I remember talking to someone. I looked in the month of February of this year. At that time, Seplat was still hovering around 20-something% year to date, and the guy was asking me, should I invest or should I wait for a pullback? I told him, we are not certain of the solution to this. And so the guy actually went ahead to do the investment, and you can imagine how much is up by now. So you cannot tell. We cannot tell. We still believe that there's a lot of upside. I don't even believe that we have seen the impact yet.
The impact has not started yet.
The impact has not started yet. So we have not seen all of those.
It's just hoarding that is causing this.
It's just, should you say hoarding? I think it's a matter of the fact that we are still relying on alternatives.
Okay.
By the time the real impact of that shortage hits the market, a lot of things will happen. So for me, Seplat is going to, and Seplat, just so you know, Seplat, because we're talking about dividend stocks portfolio now, Seplat actually paid 255 billion naira in dividends last year.
Insane, man.
That's an insane figure. So you look at companies with very good cash flow, very good dividend yield, and the very serious fundamentals that are ahead of it. So that for me is so. Seplat, you're still looking at Aradel has done 80%, over 80%. Okay. But the thing is that it almost looks like with this conflict, every single time you say, "Oh, let me wait for a pullback." Though I will put a caveat, like I put a caveat the last time. I said, if you want to trade these energy stocks with caution, the caution is that if the Strait of Hormuz is open, then there's a very high chance that you're going to have a very serious collapse in the share prices as investors try to price in the fact that we're going to have lower oil prices. And so those are some of the things you have to, so you don't just, this guy, someone recommended Seplat on a podcast, so let me go.
Would there be an instant resolvement of the problem? It's not possible.
Would it be, we are considering boots on the ground already.
Yes.
So would there be, I cannot tell. And the reason is that it's not just for US to declare victory. I want you to understand the dynamics around this Strait of Hormuz thing. It is not that Iran has put a physical blockade, but just that Iran says, if you come in, we are not guaranteed. In fact, they say you should be very careful trying to use the Strait of Hormuz. That is enough to scare
anybody.
And insurance companies are not willing to take the risk. Okay. So it's not about the US declaring victory. It's about Iran saying, okay, this is something we are step these steps. And like Donald Trump himself said, we want to talk to Iran, but we cannot talk to anybody. There's nobody to talk to.
Just kill everybody.
So that's it. So that's Seplat. It's very strong. Okay. The next, so Seplat, you could also look at Aradel, but the reason I did not mention Aradel under energy is that, I mean, that's a high number, 80-something%. Maybe a few. So you can also put it on your watch list. And put Aradel on your watch list.
A little pullback you can actually
enter. Okay, so then the second one I will talk about is Dangote Cement.
Yeah.
And so we are talking about African dividend stocks that are going to perform, where we believe will perform well.
They're
performing right now. We still project those performances into the future. But we are talking about dividends paying stocks. So we are looking at stocks that have a decent dividend yield. I just want you to consider. And out of the 7 I'm going to mention, 5 of them will be Nigerian stocks, because, I mean, Nigeria is the largest economy and, a lot of things go very well for it.
Thank you.
For obvious reasons. But, we have to be as objective as possible on this show. That's why. So, Dangote Cement. Dangote Cement, why are we projecting this? Well, Dangote Cement is a behemoth when you talk about the cement industry. They have a very strong pricing power, very good cash flow. And I want you to know that this is a pre-election year. So what do you expect? I'm telling you, what the politicians could not do in the past 4 years, they want to do it in 4 months, just because the elections are here. So we project a very decent outlook.
And the citizens will buy a lot of cement to build their own houses.
Yes. It's the same thing that when I was looking at this, I was researching on this, it's the same thing we are looking at for, you mentioned Guinness. For example, when we started out, and then I think on the podcast we did in January, we talked about Guinness for this year. We also talk. I also would also mention Nigerian breweries. These are like honorable mentions. Okay. They are not among the top 7, based on, because we're talking about dividend stock portfolio here. And the reason is because this year is a football year, FIFA.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so we expect a lot of people to drink. You know, like they say, when you watch the TV, you actually have a drink.
Okay.
So I'm also looking at Nigerian breweries and Guinness that could come in under consumer staples. Then, but Dangote cement for industrials, Dangote is on the industrials. For industrials, you have Dangote cement. We expect it to be very strong to produce very good cash flow and because cash flow is actually what they use to pay dividends. So that's then the next one is one of number 3. It will be the one that we've talked about before, which is MTN. MTN, I mean, the behemoth also in terms of communication. They have over 80 million customers. They might have more, but we're looking at unique customers. They have about 80 million unique customers. So when you talk about data, we talk about voice. It's MTN, you know. So we expect them to do a lot this year. We had already mentioned MTN, and MTN has done phenomenally so far, and we expect them to do even more. Okay. Then we talk about financials now. Okay. Talk about like the likes of Zenith Bank.
That's 4.
That's number 4. Zenith Bank has done so well. Zenith Bank has done over 60%. Year to date. Yes, Zenith Bank has done over 60% year to date. I think almost 70% year to date, as a matter of fact. Then, so Zenith Bank is also good.
As people are not traveling, they'll be doing more of e-banking.
Yeah, so they will be doing. I mean, Zenith Bank, they already have. As you know, it's an international bank. They already have, and because of the foreign exchange, forex, so there is some stability in the system. Yeah. And then you still have inflation that is not as high, but it's still, you know, in an inflationary environment, banks tend to make a lot of money because of the arbitrage they have when it comes to the bond market. So Zenith Bank is expected to do insanely well this year. We're projecting they have already done a huge amount. That's 70%. Let me give you context. So if you invested 1 million naira in Zenith Bank January 1st, you should be looking at 1.7 million naira. That's a good amount of money. Then on still under financials.
If you invested 1 million naira in January,
yes,
you have 1.7 million naira.
Yes, no. If you did Zenith Bank,
that's a good investment.
That's a very good investment. You are literally almost doubling your money. You know. So
by next month you should double your money.
You can't say that. I mean, you know that March, this is the end of the quarter, so people do a lot of profit taking. So that could bring the price, you know. But we just want to see. But I mean, in terms of stock, as far they have a lot of cash on their cash flow is still very decent. So what that means is that stock paying of dividends will be something that they can do very easily.
And they are recapitalized.
Capitalized. Even I'm in this list. I have two financials, two banks actually on this list, and both of them are capitalized. Okay. So you also have the next one. You have is you have GT Bank, GTCO.
Okay.
Ticker symbol GTCO. The GT Bank has already done over 50% year to date.
I said to talk about GT Bank will actually overtake Zenith Bank because of their facilities. They're actually meeting up.
Zenith Bank still remains a behemoth. You know, how these guys make money, I mean, the banks really do a lot of arbitrage, and the lending capacity. Zenith Bank is a tier 1 lender.
Yeah, I know.
So their lending capacity.
But GT Bank is also trying.
GT Bank is trying. GT Bank has tech, brings a lot of tech into the game.
To be, yeah. So
meaning that you're attracting a certain generation of bank. But I mean, you still have to know that.
You can place GT Bank with OPay when it comes
so here is the deal.
Technology.
Okay, but here is the deal I want you to think about. Where is the money currently? The money is not with Gen Zs.
Okay, yeah.
The money is still with the baby boomers in Nigeria. So GT Bank is doing a lot of work. I remember even when I was in school, I was doing GT Bank. So GT Bank is actually onboarding the next generation of the banking public, and they're bringing a lot of technology. That's what is giving them that competitive edge.
Okay.
So if you look at the fact that Zenith Bank is a behemoth when it has to do with lending, but well, I mean, there's going to be a wealth transfer eventually. And GT Bank is very poised to literally compete with some of the names that you mentioned, which is OPay, MoneyPoint, and the rest of them. So really, that's what gives GT Bank such a strong
now we've
position.
talked about Seplat, we've talked about Dangote.
We've talked about Seplat, we've talked about Dangote Cement, we've talked about MTN, we've talked about Zenith Bank, we've talked about GT Bank.
Okay.
So the next we want to talk about is Airtel Africa. Okay. Airtel has done. Airtel is of course second to MTN, such a behemoth too, when it comes to the telecom space, and they are expanding, and they're attracting. They have a lot of products.
Fundamentals are very strong.
Their fundamentals are as strong as what you had for MTN. But what I want you to understand is that the telecom companies are actually performing very incredibly well, and the reason is very obvious. The next generation, everybody with AI is coming in. With ChatGPT, you have a lot of tools that even make it almost compulsory for people to get online. And the companies that are more poised to benefit are the telecom company, because people are already using it. So it's a matter of, rather than if I tell you, okay, for you to get Starlink, for instance, you have to go buy the receiver, you do all
even
of
in
this.
the recession, people will still be online.
People, in fact, during the recession even makes people to be online because everybody is trying to be very conservative. And especially if a recession happens now, it's most likely going to be an oil price shock induced recession,
which will affect transportation.
And so if it has already affected transportation now. Today, if you want to move from a distance that before now you would pay like 1,000, it's now 1,500, 1,700. So when people will begin to rethink moving, they will only move if it is absolutely necessary. So what do you think will happen? There will be joining meetings online, and that needs data. So who is poised to benefit? You have MTN, you have Airtel.
And in Nigeria.
Well, like I told you, most of those because if you look at any company, any telecom company that doesn't exist in Nigeria,
does not have a big market.
You don't have such a big market. Yeah. That's why the last one I'm going to mention is Africa. It's Kenya. And why are they very competitive? Because they have M-Pesa. You know what M-Pesa is? It's a digital payments platform. So that's why they are competitive. Safaricom, it exists there. They also exist in other African countries. So, but Safaricom did not come as high as the likes. It's a telecom company too, but it didn't come as high as MTN and Airtel. And the reason is because so much present in Nigeria. So whenever you talk about Africa, Nigeria cannot be ignored. We have over 250 million people. And that's like maybe 10 or 15 other African countries combined. Okay. So, and not just that, we have people that can actually, a generation that is very innovative. Innovative generation means that they want to gain exposure to the internet. And that means data access. There are some places in Africa that you still don't have internet access. But in Nigeria, the incentive is there for you to extend internet access because there's a very high chance that you're going to have customers there. So that's why companies are pushing, a lot of companies, especially in the telecom space, are pushing. Beyond even those companies, we have a lot of digital service providers and what we call last mile providers. There's people that take the internet from the shores into the hinterland. We have a lot of them sprouting because it's a justifiable business case. So, but for now, we are talking about companies, the big shots, the guys that are most importantly the ones that are paying dividends. So, these guys are pushing. They have a ton of cash flow. MTN had an issue, I think, 2 years ago, especially with the FX, issue challenge. But they have recovered, and they are recovering big time. So they are still in the recovery phase. So that's why we recommend that people could still.
Let's go by the list again.
Then the first one we mentioned was Seplat.
Aradel on the watch.
Okay. And the reason why we do not say Aradel is because it has done so high. It's already.
You think they do pull back?
So maybe a pullback could give an opportunity.
Okay.
So Seplat, we have Dangote Cement. And we said it because this is a pre-election year. A lot of construction will happen. Government contracts will be coming in for construction, housing, you name it. So we talked about Dangote Cement. We also talked about, by the way, Dangote Cement paid as much as 30 naira per share.
Yeah. Already coming to that.
Yes, they paid 30 naira per share. So that's huge, that's attractive. Seplat 255 billion. That's what they paid last year in terms of dividends. Then you have, from there we move to MTN. MTN, behemoth, telecom space, decent cash flow. They are recovering from the shock they had in 2024. Then you have Airtel. It's also a behemoth. Then you have in the banking sector, that's telecom. Then you have the banking sector, you have Zenith Bank. There are some honorable mentions too in the Zenith Bank. So you could be looking at Access Corp, for instance. You could be looking at Fidelity. Fidelity is an international bank, as you know. Then they have received an international banking license. So what that means is that they are able to extend their services. I mentioned Access. Access is tier 1 lender. Most of these guys are what we call primary market makers.
Okay.
So in the bond markets, like I told you, they actually benefit a lot from the arbitrage that exists in this market. So we are expecting them to, some of those are names. This one I'm saying, honorable mention that these are names that you should be looking at, you'll be watching. Yeah. Last year, Stanbic did very well, but I think people are going to begin to take profit. Well, there's something about trading or investing. When people are talking about a name, when you speak to someone, everybody says Stanbic. So when people talk about when you talk about then those names that might be a time for people to begin to take profits. So maybe we could watch what happens and then you get
but their mutual funds are very strong. Many people are taking so much profit from it.
Yes. Mutual fund is as strong as because most of the mutual funds I see around here are bond related mutual funds. We have equity, we have and the bond. Those are tied to bonds. Okay. And what is the coupon? Currently, coupon is still hovering around 16-17%. Yes. So that being the case, I mean, it's
advisable for somebody to actually take a buy-in.
You could take a buy-in because one of the things that has happened is Dangote refinery has actually is the major reason why the dollar has stabilized, because that's a very huge volume of dollar import, So that has actually smoothened out. I know maybe you might not agree with me because you think it's Cardoso that is doing what. I beg to differ.
I thank you that you actually mentioned it.
No.
Let him take his face.
Did you hear what I said? I said.
I'm happy that you mentioned the name.
Listen, let me tell you something, moderator. The central bank has just one tool in its toolbox.
Okay.
And I don't want you to. I know what they say when the only tool you have is a hammer.
The best tool.
When the only tool you have is a hammer, everything becomes a nail.
Yeah.
So, but they have just one tool, monetary policy tool. And monetary policy targets the demand side. It does nothing, literally nothing to the supply side.
It repels
so before you,
effects.
So Dangote is coming from the supply side.
Okay.
So we have seen this monetary policy over the years. It has done nothing.
Okay, all right. What we're going to do is that next episode.
So
we're going to discuss this.
So Dangote has done a lot of work bringing in forex. So we believe that with forex coming in, a number of these companies, like the telecom companies, you have even airline companies in Nigeria that almost went bankrupt because they buy jet fuel in US dollars, but
Dangote has done a lot.
People pay in Nigerian naira.
The economy would have been so bad if not for Dangote refinery.
So it's actually brought a lot of forex, and this has a way of affecting other companies. You talk about consumer staples, except that these companies have a way. Some of the companies I'm mentioning here, they have a way of pushing the inflation down to the customers. That's why they remain very strong and have a very robust balance sheet, even with some of the challenges that we're seeing globally and locally. So these names actually they're strong. They're paying their dividends regularly. and they have a very strong, they have strong fundamentals that are working for them. I had talked to you about the fact that for telecoms, if you observe all the while that we have been talking about since the beginning of this year, when we did the first, when we talked about 5 stocks that you can invest, some of those stocks have already made a lot. If you look at MTN, you look at GTCO. So, in fact, I just did a review of the stocks that we have said in January, and those stocks, a lot of them, GT Bank is already up 50%. You know, so that means some of the names of those names we had talked about. MTN, some of those names have already done very well, and we expect them to continue to do well. And the reason is very simple, is because, especially for the telecoms, because if you look at this year as a year of AI year, a year that AI will dominate, that means, of course, you need data. Everybody now,
everybody's online.
Everybody, including children in secondary school, primary schools, everybody knows ChatGPT. I mean, and so you cannot access ChatGPT without internet access, without data. So that's why companies that are playing, names that are playing in that space. How many companies I mentioned 7 companies, 7 stocks. Yeah. 3 of them are actually telecom. So that should tell you something. Tells you 3 of them are in telecoms. MTN, Airtel, and Safaricom. 2 are in finance, Zenith Bank and GTCO. One industrial, Dangote Cement, 1 in the energy space, Seplat, with Aradel as to watch. So you see that these are very, very resilient names that we believe. By the way, like we say, not investment advice, not tax advice, not financial advice. This is what we have looked at our research. Show us that these are some of the names, and we have explained. I take time on this show to explain why my reasoning. Why I say that this will happen. I mean, it would have been very easy for me to just come and mention those names, but it would be the biggest disservice I would do to you, because I'm not telling you why. And when you don't know why we are saying this, you don't know because the reality is that these things are in real time. You have to look at them in real time. If the fundamentals changes, you have to change. You have to be nimble. As an investor, you have to be very nimble. So what that means is that if the fundamentals change significantly, you have to look at, like last year, we looked at inflationary beneficiaries, stocks that benefit from inflation. Now we see inflation coming down. So if you kept on with that, then you'll be bound. You have your fingers burnt. So you want to always look at. I take time to explain my reasoning for this, so that when you look at those, if those reasonings are no longer subsist, let's say the fundamentals have changed. For example, you've seen for the past 3 weeks on this podcast, I've been mentioning names in the energy space, because that is what is happening. And what so, but if there is a resolution of the case in the Strait of Hormuz, that narrative, that fundamental changes completely.
I think there's something different.
That fundamental changes completely. So if it changes, you that maybe decide to work with some of the recommendations we make here, you have to change accordingly. You sit in there, you become an exit liquidity. People, you just be left holding the bag.
The market takes you out.
And yeah, so if once you see those fundamentals changing, it might be time to start taking profits. You take and then do what? Rotate them into other names. That's why from time to time we'll be looking at the market as the market changes, the market dynamics changes, change. We will be looking at some of the stocks that are poised to make some positive upside in the new dynamics. And so you have to be subscribed. You have to keep on listening to what we say, follow us, so that you are always in the know about the dynamics of the market, and of course the stocks that are.
I think it's the best place also for this particular episode, and you've done greatly to take us through this journey. And these are 7 stocks that are not just making money now; they will make money even in the future, till the uncertainty is taken away, because we don't know when it's actually going. Now, on that note, we can say we've come to the end of today's episode of Clockwise. Thank you always for coming, and we'll do this again. Please do not forget to like, subscribe, and put a notification bell on this channel, because every week we bring amazing content. And also, do not forget that the illiterate of the 21st century are not those who did not go to school, or those who will not go to school, but are those who have refused to evolve as the environment is evolving. My name is Providence. I'll see you again.